light being that helped me really understand life in a completely different way, and some lessons that I wouldn't understand until years later. I talk about one of the things that she said to me that sticks with me so well right now, and I want to share because of the pandemic as well, as I was overworked and stressed out. And, Tamara, you and I talked about, I'm a highly sensitive person. I had no idea what that was. I didn't know what that vernacular was at the time. I'm still learning. I'm 39 and I'm still just starting to scratch the surface on even that form of learning from psychology and personalities and sensitivity we believe in is.
Welcome to the Wealth and Wellness All Women Rock podcast, hosted by me, Tamara, the CEO and founder of All Women Rock Global. Join me on this journey as we explore topics, conversations, and interviews related to wealth and wellness. Let's get started. Welcome back to the Wealth and Wellness All Women Rock podcast. I'm so excited that you are listening with us on today. On today's episode, you guys will get the opportunity to hear an interview that I did with a great friend of mine, Erin Elizabeth Downing. Have you ever met someone and you just started feeling a sense of peace whenever they would talk or explain something to you, or you just kind of got an instant connection from your very first time meeting someone? Well, I was able to experience both of those. My first time meeting Erin, and even to this day, whenever we get the opportunity to talk, connect, or maybe do interviews like this, I just feel a sense of peace. I gain so much knowledge around her. Erin is a writer, a coach, speaker, interior designer, and author. Erin's educational background includes a Bachelor of Science in Interior Design and certificates in NUSHU Group Facilitation, plant-based nutrition, Pilates, and of course, Kundalini Yoga. She is currently obtaining a Master of Science in Organizational Leadership from the University of Colorado Boulder. She utilizes her 20 plus years of professional and personal experience, traveling the globe as both a corporate executive and purveyor of ancient medicinal healing modalities, and teaching to bring a one-of-a-kind experience to her clients. Erin combines the mind, body, and spirit connection within each of her sessions, ensuring a unique, holistic approach to wellness. Erin currently resides in Los Angeles, California. When not writing or speaking about health, wellness, or Kundalini, Erin uses her interior design degree to manage commercial real estate projects. Without further ado, I want you guys to be able to listen to this episode. I will say this in the beginning. It was so much insight that I gained from talking with her. I read the book before we got started. Her book is titled Kundalini Yoga Demystified. And it was so helpful for me being a beginner in yoga and just being able to read and learn more. So I didn't feel like there's no way I can comprehend this. I was able to take in information from her book. So I wanted to read it entirely, experience it on my own before our interview. And during our interview, we talked about a multitude of things. So the interview had to be broken up in two parts. On today, you will get the opportunity to hear part one of my interview with Erin. And then on next week, you'll get the opportunity to hear part two. You will not want to miss it. You will learn so much about yoga as well as Erin. I promise you, you will not be disappointed. Let's take a listen. Hey girl, hey. On today, I am joined with the beautiful and talented, I say my friend, Erin Elizabeth Downing, the meditation expert, healer, and now author. Thank you so much for joining us on today.
Thank you. And yes, we are absolutely 1,000, no doubt.
Yes. I'm so excited to have you on the podcast on today and to do a deep dive discussion on your new book, Kundalini Yoga Demystified.
Yes, me too. I'm so excited to be here, truly.
Yeah, it's definitely a treat. I have my book here, and I was like, man, I have so many bookmarks, and I've highlighted a lot of stuff in here.
I love a good marked up book. That's like one of the first things I say. I don't know if you or anybody else feels this way, but like I never read a book without a pen in my hand. Like I'm always underlining and taking notes, and depending on like I'll put little flags in it, just like you said. Yes. I really think of books as just as like living, breathing, beautiful things. So like the fact that you wrote all over it makes me so happy.
Yeah, I do. I was looking at one page before we got on. I was like, God, I even got makeup on here.
That's all
right. Sometimes I rub my face, and if I'm writing some down, of course, the makeup gets on your book. But I was like,
you just need it a little rouge, no big deal.
I want to first off by saying I have been so intrigued to learn more about Kundalini Yoga. I started doing yoga. Actually, it was recommended to my doctor when I was struggling with anxiety pretty bad. It was like, it got worse during the pandemic. But it wasn't as bad before the pandemic. My doctor wanted to put me on different medications. And I was like, it's not working for me. He was like, have you ever thought about yoga? So I started doing a little yoga that I found on YouTube. And, during that time, YouTube always recommends different little sidebar things. And I kind of saw Kundalini yoga, but I was like, kind of felt like it was too complicated for me. Yeah. And I just
wearing all white, and they look super scary, right?
Yeah.
This is literally why I wrote a book called Kundalini Yoga Demystified, because that's kind of the stigma around it, because it looks so different. It's and it is quote unquote different, but it's not. It's so simplistic and so basic. Once you understand it, easy peasy, anybody can do it.
Yes, and your book definitely helps with that, because immediately once I first started reading, I was just like, okay, this is easy for me to digest as a newbie and someone that hasn't had the opportunity to experience, and kind of was like, I guess feeling a little apprehensive in the beginning, but you break it all down for us.
Yeah, of course. And that's why, like, I'm super nerdy. Let's be honest. Like, I love the science behind anything. And it's like, I remember, to go completely off topic, but when I was in college, so my undergraduate degree was in interior design. And I got into Virginia Tech underneath the School of Business first. Like, that's how I started at Virginia Tech. Go Hokies. And, I had to take this class, business calculus with matrices. Like, I don't even know, what is the point of such a thing, right? And I remember asking my best friend, who is just lickety split, so intelligent in general, but I would ask her, like, what about this? And why do we do this? And she's like, Erin, just memorize like the theorem. I'm like, my brain doesn't work that way. Like, sure, I can do it, but I'll forget it. Like, if I don't understand why this works, sure, I might get a good grade on this test, but I'm never going to retain this information ever again. And she was like, oh my gosh, just memorize it, get a good grade, and move on with your life. Needless to say, since my brain doesn't work that way, I was not intrigued and went into a degree like interior design, where I still remember, I kid you not, pretty much anything and everything I ever learned in school and after, because you take all of those tools and they compound upon one another, and you use them in your daily life and in your career. And that's how I feel about anything. Like, if I can understand the science behind it, or somebody explains it to me and I know where it came from and why you do certain things, it clicks. And I will remember it. And not only will I remember it, I'll get excited about it, or I'll think, oh, that's why you do this. And it will make logical sense to me. And so then I'll understand, like, oh, this is why you sit on a meditation pillow, or this is the science behind why you roll out a yoga mat. Do you need a yoga mat if you don't have one? No, but you could put the same intention in your mind, so that if you don't have a yoga mat and you're stuck in an airport and you need to stretch or you need to do something, you can kind of like put that energy underneath your feet in your mind's eye and move on with your day. And you now understand why we do such a thing. And then it's like, oh, okay. And then each one of those things builds upon one another and builds upon one another. And then all of these things become not quote unquote scary anymore. And it becomes all of this knowledge that you have and all of these other ways that you can fuel yourself and give yourself love, right? And like connect to the divine and a higher power and the community around you. And it just becomes this like I'm making arm motions, like anybody can see me, but like this beautiful, expansive experience, like from your heart center, connecting the mind and the heart, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That is so true. I love that. And as soon as you open up the book, you just basically say in the beginning, I demystify Kundalini by removing the confusion. I'm like, okay. I knew immediately, like, as I read it, I won't have to feel overwhelmed with like reading and trying to understand everything.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And purposely at the end of each chapter, put exercises so you can take it and put it into practice. And I kind of say this in the intro, but who knows if anybody reads the intro, right?
Some do.
People, okay. All right. So you heard it. You know, some people are like, whatever, moving on. But I purposely put exercises at the end of every chapter so that you can take what you just learned and put it into practice. So it's like that muscle memory. You're saying, oh, okay, I now understood. There's a whole chapter called Breathe Like a Yogi, which is amazing breathwork stuff for anxiety, to your point. Mm-hmm. Right. And afterwards, if you want, we can talk about some things that you can do. I would love to help you with that. And it's like just those breath work. You've learned why, you understand, like you get it. And then it tells you the breath work exercises. And it also you like times of day. It'll tell you like seasons, because some breaths are like cooling breaths, which are really good for when you're overheated in the summer. Some breaths are warming breaths, which are really good for when you're cold, like you probably are right now, in the middle of the winter. And you can start to kind of pick and choose those. And if you want, depending on how you feel in your body, you can do a couple of those and get comfortable with that before you move on. And sometimes it helps just to build. It's purposely done that way so that you can foundationally build a really strong foundation. And then you can just build and build and build, because once you get one concept, it's super easy to incorporate with the next and the next. Because one of the reasons why a 3-minute Kundalini meditation is so powerful is because it combines a bunch of different techniques. There's mantras, there's like the singing and the ancient sounds. There's breath work, which is like your prana, your life force energy. There's physical movements, say with your hands, right? You're creating mudras and doing things that amplify the energy that way. You're sitting a certain way to get your spine in alignment. So all of these things are happening at once, which is why it gets so powerful, because it forces you to get out of your head, because you're using all these different modalities at one time, and you're doing them with intention, and you're doing them with the sacred science, and then it compounds them to give you benefits in 3 minutes that you wouldn't normally get if you were just doing anything else, for that matter.
Yeah. Yep. I absolutely love that. In the beginning, you kind of share your experience. I know a little bit about it, but not a whole lot. You share your experience of working at a stressful job and going to an event. And that's when you learned about Kundalini Yoga. Can you share that with us?
Sure. Divine intervention, as it were. I truly believe with every being in my heart and soul that the universe is always conspiring in our favor, that the universe always has our back. And one of the things that yoga in general does is it creates this presence. And I call it the power of the pause, right? And we can talk about that a little bit more in a minute, but it creates this environment where we're usually so busy and so chaotic that sometimes we can't see the signs that are happening to us. Tamara and I were talking before, and I swear there's like 6 signs the universe is like giving her direction from. I'm like, girl. But it's like sometimes the universe kind of hits you over the head with the 2x4 until you're like, okay, I hear you. Like, I get it. Like, I will humor you. Like, I am open. Like, just give me a minute, right? Because we all go at our own pace. Like, I believe that we were put on this earth, in this incarnation to achieve beautiful and great, like, things, every one of us, but it's up to us to answer the call, and it's up to us to step into our power. And a lot of times the people that we meet and the events that happen and things like that just kind of give us a little bit more direction on which way we're supposed to go. or I shouldn't say supposed to go. I changed about 2 years ago my vernacular in the way that I say no longer the next right step, because I truly don't believe that there's a right or a wrong. I've changed my vernacular to say the next aligned step, because I truly believe that if we just keep taking the next aligned action and the next aligned action, what is meant to unfold will unfold, and that will change however it's meant to change. As long as we have the intention for our highest and best. Like whenever I pray or meditate, I ask for divine guidance for my highest and best. I have a pup. So I say for Jackson's highest and best. I say for the highest and best in the world. And I say anyone else who does not have those intentions, like I send you into the light, and I ask you to please leave. And I mean that in every avenue. And that's kind of just like a daily affirmation that I do whenever I do my spiritual practice. And to not get completely off topic, what you're talking about is I have been praying. I have been working as a corporate executive in New York City, and I've been trying to do this meditation thing for legitimately no less than 5 years. I tried so hard. And this is, I love to learn, right? I love to study. Obviously, I wouldn't have written a book like this. So I'm reading up on things. I'm trying to study. I'm trying to figure things out. And I just cannot get it. I intellectually couldn't get it, meaning I couldn't take whatever somebody was saying in my head and connect it to that heart space that you need to do. That connection between the two just wasn't working. And I couldn't figure out how to quote unquote drop in. A lot of people will say like, oh, let me go drop into a meditation real quick. I don't know if it's just like a slang, but it's meaning to get centered in that deeply grounded, connecting to something bigger than you spot. And I was sitting at my desk in New York City, and I had been talking about this for forever. And all of a sudden I get, this email into my inbox, into my work email. It was for the Riemann Museum, which if no one has gone, it is this beautiful, gorgeous place that's got a lot of Eastern modalities and spirituality throughout the museum. Like it's just phenomenal. I believe it's on 17th Street, like Chelsea, kind of in between Chelsea and like Union Square-esque. And there was an event that night that was called, they were having some event called On Meditation. And no idea what it is. But when I hear the hell yes, like when I hear that like lightning bolt out of nowhere, yes, which I would love to address the difference between that, because I can give you my own experience, because sometimes it's hard to determine what is that divine push and what's us in our head. But we'll get back to that. So I heard this out of nowhere go, and I just said, all right, let's go. I don't know what it is, but we're going. My girlfriend, who I'd been, talking about this mystical thing called meditation and why neither of us could figure it out, was, sitting at a desk right around the corner. And I'm like, let's do this. And before we knew it, we were in there that night, and they were screening this docu-series, which is still available, of people who have very prominent meditation practices, all different meditation practices. And they like short little docu snippets, like 20, 30 minutes each. And then the virtually unknown, she's still very known at the time, but not compared to her star status of today, was Gabby Bernstein. And this was like before Oprah's Super Soul Sundays kind of thing. And she already had a couple books. So let's not downplay the fact that she was a superstar then and has always been a superstar, but she grounded us into this room with this Kundalini meditation. And it took 3 minutes. And just even the intention behind, hey, we all just came from busy lives, right? Everyone's on subways and outsides. And in New York City, we're in this container, we're in this space together. Let's stop. Let's breathe. Let's do something together with intention. Right? Let's put this meditation and put this energy out into the universe. Let's create the safe container where we can all experience whatever we're about to experience with the highest and best. Right. And these are my words, of course, not hers, and we dropped in, and I did a 3-minute meditation, and meaning like we did the exercise. And then I closed my eyes for 1 minute afterwards, not even more than that. And I kid you not, I don't curse in the book, but I looked at my girlfriend and said, holy shit, I just meditated. Like, what is this magic and how do I get more of it?
Yeah.
And my whole life changed in that moment. I mean, it did not unfold in fairness as life does. This was years and years. This was like over 10 years ago now. So my life has completely changed, but that was the seed, right? That was, I jokingly call Kundalini like the gateway drug to meditation, because if you have never been able to meditate before, you will be able to with a Kundalini meditation, hands down.
Yeah. Yeah. I can say that because at first of course I came in with all assumptions, and I thought I did one of the very first ones in the beginning. I kind of thought like it would be too long and too complicated, and it's not at all. It's not. Yeah. So after you did that, you kind of fast forward just a little bit, you decided to move to India. What ideas I guess came from like, okay, I want to take this further and I want to go to India. How did that process go?
So as I started dipping into it a little bit more, I started changing. My energy started changing, and I was still working my New York corporate job that was predominantly male based. And the guys started coming up to me and they would say, Erin, something's different about you. Like, what's different? And this was, I mean, you said that you saw something on YouTube, right? I mean, this was like OG. Bieber maybe got found on YouTube at this time. You know what I mean? Like nobody knew what YouTube was. If people were doing Kundalini videos, I don't know who they were, but they were so ahead of the times, which if they were doing it, they were probably Kundalini masters. And it was probably this gem, that they just foresaw how the world was going to go. But there wasn't videos and there wasn't a book. And even there's other beautiful books about Kundalini out there now, but at the time there just wasn't. And I couldn't find the information. And they'd say like, is there a book? Is there something you can send me? And my response to them was no. Like, I wish that I could explain this to you. Like you would have to come with me, you would have to do something. But at the time, the only way that I could even find Kundalini in New York is to go, to this one studio cross town that took me my entire Sunday. I mean, I lived in West Village when I first discovered it, right? So I would go, it was this place east of Union Square in Irving, and I would have to like walk because taking the subway cross town like takes even more time. And so it'd be like an hour and a half one way, an hour and a half class, an hour and a half. So I gave that to myself as a gift every Sunday, where I said, you know what, I'm going to make this pilgrimage to this place and really dive into it. But I wasn't able to fit it in at night, and I wasn't able to do these things. But even this human that was my teacher would sit and talk about life with me afterwards. She would ask me, and I've tried to find her since, to be honest, and she's gone down the rabbit hole, and I have no idea how to find who this lovely, lovely soul was. And she was an angel that was brought into my life for that place and time. And I've accepted that she was just this magic light being that helped me really understand life in a completely different way, and some lessons that I wouldn't understand until years later. I talk about one of the things that she said to me that sticks with me so well right now, and I want to share because of the pandemic as well, is I was overworked and stressed out. And, Tamara, you and I talked about, I'm a highly sensitive person. I had no idea what that was. I didn't know what that vernacular was at the time. I'm still learning. I'm 39 and I'm still just starting to scratch the surface on even that form of learning from psychology and personalities and sensitivities. And I had a really hard time in New York. There was a lot of energy hitting me all the time without any of the tools in my tool belt to ground myself, to protect my energy, right? To get myself to center before I stepped out into the world, and was kind of, knocked from every side with both, all energy of all kinds, but it's still a lot coming at you all at once, right? Mm-hmm. And she kind of said something to me along the lines of, she's like, because I was at the point where I was at my breaking point. I was either just going to like quit everything and move away, or, like, what do I do? And I was like at the polarity, right? That I feel like we all get to at some point, where you're just like, should I just wash my hands of it and like shake it up, turn up the snow globe upside down and like move on to a whole new life? Or do I stay where I am and work? And her description to me was, yeah, Erin, sure, you could forsake all things and move to the mountains and be a Himalaya, like a monk in the Himalayas, and like meditate and dedicate your life to spiritual practice and explore that side of who your soul is fully. She said, but how would you be being of service? How would you be helping humanity by forsaking everything and going that way? You could, and people have, but would you not be of more service by learning and exploring that part of yourself and bringing it back into the environments where you are, by being that light where you are in the darkness, by standing in the darkness and committing to being the light and committing to your practice and committing to learning every day, so that that energy and that light and that ripple effect affects everyone around you. And because you are courageous enough to stand in the darkness, in that light, that you change the world. Whew, right?
Wow.
And it took me a long time. And people ask me why, like, do I teach? Just the second that they see the book, they're like, oh, you wrote a book on Kundalini, so do you teach? And my response to them is like, this is my teaching, because there are beautiful souls that can sit up in front of a studio and be present and speak in that way. And God bless them, because they're amazing at it and they hold space for people in real time. And that is a skill. And I'm like, this is my way. This is my way to teach others. This is my way to be the light in the darkness, because I can reach people through my words. I can explain things that hopefully make sense to them. Like, that is one of my gifts, right? Like, that is one of the beautiful blessings that God has bestowed on me. So I can help people in that way so that they can get there on their own time. And my words will live on. And ideally, when the right person hears it, when the right person sees it, and when their heart and soul is ready for those teachings, the book will fall off the place. They'll hear this podcast, like they'll hear the call, they'll hear that divine intervention, that this is something that could help them in that moment. And it took me years and years to understand that. And I think about that teaching all the time, because there are moments when I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm like, no, Erin, you need to stay in the difficult situations. You need to recommit to your practices. You need to do your meditations every day and pay yourself first, mind, body, spirit, which I've been talking about before all of this, like since way before the first time we met. And really show up with intention to every interaction that you meet. And if you can't show up with intention, take the moment to ground, to do the meditation, so that you can be whole and sovereign and solid in your own body first. And then by that, radiate that out into the world. And I think about that every day. I think about that every moment. And I mean, I'm literally living in downtown LA right now. I have to drive through Skid Row twice a day to get to my work. Like, there is pain and suffering all around me. And I don't say that like I intentionally put myself in that, but this is where God and the universe has chosen to put me in this moment in time. And I'm not saying I will be here for forever, but I know that I am here for a reason, and is because that lesson is one of my life lessons. And I would say that that is probably a life lesson that many of us are hearing the call for at the moment, because the pandemic has not allowed us to escape. The pandemic has not allowed us to leave those environments that feel toxic, right? That hurt our hearts, right? There's pain and suffering all around us, and we're being called to learn how to stay steady in our body, to stay soft and gentle and compassionate in the face of extreme suffering. And it is not an easy call.
I would agree. I'm just digesting everything that you said. Yes. How do you, you mentioned like you're in the morning, I guess, with you getting up and getting started, what does that process look like? Is it you're meditating, you're practicing Kundalini Yoga? What is that?
Yeah. So I believe in paying ourselves first, mind, body, and spirit, always. I believe that all three of those components are immensely important to the wholeness of who we are. I've talked a couple of times about the connection between the head and the heart. It's constantly trying to make sure that the head, the heart, the gut, which doesn't, if we even think about it visually, right, is all the chakras coming down. We're connecting all of those parts of our body in one movement. And, for me, even just the simple act, when I was, for those who can't see, I was drinking something before, and Tamara asked me what it was. And I said, the first thing that I do every morning is, I wake up, I brush my teeth, I do the things, scrape my tongue. We can talk about that too, if you really want, but do just a couple of intentional practices like that. And the first thing I do is I turn on the hot water and I put hot water and lemon and apple cider vinegar. And it is a warm, actually, I drink a big glass of water, clean, fresh, high quality water into my body to add hydration. And then I drink my apple cider vinegar and lemon and drink it with intention of cleaning out my body, helping my body detox from all that it doesn't need, that it no longer needs, with warming up my body and getting my digestion going. So even the simple act like that, I'm doing it with intention to help my body work effectively, right? To heal. I'm not just throwing coffee in my body right away and making sure I'm fueling it with even the most basic fluids, right? And I move my body. I take my pup out because, Jackson is important. I mean, I don't have kids yet, but I still pay him first, right? Make sure, because I can relax once I know that he's taken care of. So we take out, I drink my water, we have a nice I talk to the trees. I get out in nature for a second. I'm like, good morning, trees. No one else is up that early. So I'm like, hello, nature. And
what time do you typically wake up then?
It depends. In my perfect world, it would be way earlier than it is. There's something called the ambrosia hours, which, if I were an ambitious and, who could imagine maybe a good yogi, I don't like that term, but if I will get there eventually, right? This is a goal, but they're the 2 hours between, the 2 hours before sunrise, which are different in every season. So I don't like to say time, but they're the ambrosia hours. They're the magic auspicious time. When I was in India, they use the word auspicious often. And it is the time when, quote unquote, the veil between our world and the next and whatever and whomever you believe in is thinner. And you'll notice if you're the type of person that always wakes up at 2 and 3 in the morning every day, right? I have been like this my entire life, even to the point where my mom, who is since passed, but would tell me that every night, every morning around this time, especially when I was, later in the cooking period, she would wake up and she would see me stretch and turn, and she could see my whole limbs and everything move and turn to the other side at the same kind of time that I still wake up now. So even in her womb, I was doing this apparently, but, and that time is, if you think about it, it's when the world's quiet, right? Everyone's still asleep. The birds are still quiet. The sun hasn't quite woken up. So the 2 hours before sunrise is really magic, really, really, really spiritual time that we can tap in and get this compounding effect of our practices. So in theory, you wake up before them and you do your meditation or any of the things, especially if you're looking for divine guidance, especially if you're calling on your angels, you're calling on your ancestors, you're calling on your loved ones, calling on whomever and whatever you believe in. You will find that being able to do that in those 2 hours before will not only help you drop in, I'm using air quotes, but as we talked about, get into that meditative state, but it will also help you connect easier, right? And in theory, since this is a yogic science, people all around the world are doing the same thing at this time as well. So anytime you do anything in community, especially with intention, it compounds, which is why, being in yoga studios and doing these things, going into a room and even chanting all at the same time just creates this compounding ripple effect of energy. So even if you're by yourself and doing it at these times, that energy is a big connective tissue, and everyone else, who is sleeping and everyone else who's up and doing that is breathing this energy out into the world and ideally seeping into everyone in their slumber and helping humanity, even for the people who aren't joining in. So I try to get up early. Sometimes life throws a monkey wrench and I don't get to bed till 11. So there's no way I'm waking up like 4 hours later, or 3, 4, 5, whatever it is, hours later. But I at least do something, even if I'm short on time, I say, even if it's 5 minutes each, stretch. You can pay your body first by stretching, right? Actually move with intention, bring some breath in, like let your body wake up a little before you just hit the ground running and run out the door, like smooth out those joints, like lubricate, like just get it moving with a little bit of intention. Do a 5-minute yoga series, right? Do a little bit of a flow, do a 3-minute Kundalini exercise. Like I'm not here to say that Kundalini is the one and only thing to do. Sit in a meditation where you just close your eyes even. I like to always light a candle. There's a ritual about that for me when I sit into my quiet meditation practice, because I do Kundalini and just sit. And sometimes mantras are really, really powerful for me. Everybody experiences vibration differently. But for me, it is like one of those next level connection things that really just gets me into this, like gratitude, heart open space. And, if I'm just going to sit in a meditation listening or maybe singing a mantra myself while it's going, I'll light a candle, I'll burn a little sage, say a little prayer, set my intention, ask for divine guidance. What I was saying, only for highest and best. I ask that you, place some protection around myself, Jackson, my pup, our home, that only those with the highest and best are allowed, and everyone else, we thank you, but we send you into the light. Like this is my sacred space. This is my sacred intention. And if you're not here for that, like you gotta go, right? Like God bless you. And please be along your way. And if you think about that, by really setting those boundaries, people are talking a lot about boundaries right now. Boundaries are tough. And it's not just boundaries with your coworkers, like, oh no, you will not talk to me that way. I can't tell you how, my degree was in interior design. Now back, working for the day job, right? When I'm not opening my heart to this practice and opening my heart to really doing this with other people. I've got contractors and people, and I can't tell you how many times I've had to say, you were raising your voice at me. And you continue to raise your voice at me. You are being disrespectful. And if you continue to be disrespectful, I'm going to hang up the phone and we can talk again when you are able to speak to me.
Yeah.
In a different tone.
Yeah.
End of story. Right. But I am 39 years old. Do you know how long it has taken me to get to a point in my career where I am comfortable and grounded enough that I can say that and know I will not be treated that way anymore? And it is because I get up every morning. I set that intention for myself. I meditate every day. I do not skip it ever. I cannot step forward into a world like that, right? Where that energy is coming at me from every angle without being first grounded and protecting my own energy by saying, like, if you don't have the highest and best, like, you are not welcome here. Peace and blessings, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Peace and blessings on your way.
I love that. For myself, for me, I need to pour in before I pour out. I have, my husband and my 2 daughters. So I try to get up before they do and, pray and meditate. And sometimes I'll even journal. And I just was like, and eat, like you mentioned, some days when it's like too hectic, or maybe I went to sleep too late, and I'm waking up at the last minute, I still have to do something in order to kind of ground myself so that I know, okay, I got this. I can conquer today.
And I love that you mentioned praying and journaling, right? Like I think all of these things as tools in our toolbox and our tool belt, whatever analogy works for you, right? And our backpack can be our energetic backpack or spiritual backpack. It can be whatever resonates with you. But each of those is like something. That's why I say mind, body, and spirit. And I don't say which one is which, because for you, right? Praying is something which is great. It's perfect. Like you're connecting to something higher than yourself. Like that is something that allows you to tap into that energy. Journaling, like, look, I wrote a book, the written word, and getting those emotions out of my body is one of the most important things that I need to do. in order to process my emotions fully as well. And there are times when I journal for months every day, and I'm just writing and writing and writing. And then maybe I hit a spell where I'm like, okay, I need something different. My body is craving something different. My mind, my heart, my soul is craving something different, and I'll pivot. And that's great. Like it's perfect. There's nothing, I believe it's about the intention behind it. Right. And the whole reason why, like I say it over and over again, Kundalini is amazing, but it is not the only way. Right. But it can be that gateway drug to let you get into that altered space. So now you know what it feels like. And once you feel it once, you're never going to not want to feel it again. Right. Yeah. And then you can use that to help you kind of open your mind and your heart to other things. Maybe you get into a deeper practice where you pray on a different level, right? Where you journal and you're able to tap into that heart space or that emotion and finally journal and get to the root cause of this thing that has been hurting your heart for years. So it's all interconnected and it's all beautiful. And I believe that whatever we need is divinely presented to us at the time in the space that we need it by the teacher that shows up. Like no one's your enemy, right? No one's your friend. Everybody is your teacher. Like we're all here to help each other learn and grow. And ideally, even when opportunities present themselves painfully, we continue to build those people around us who do feel like that safe space, who can have conversations like you and I are having. And, I can say, oh my gosh, you like pray and journal. Awesome. That's great. Instead of like the shadow side of it where someone's like, no, you pray and you journal, like we all need a little bit more heart opening in our lives.
Yeah, I agree. And I that's the same for me. Some days I might change it. Well, some months I might change it up. I don't do the same thing all the time. Sometimes I might even read or I listen to like a podcast. There are some meditation podcasts that I like to listen to. So I change it up, whatever is fitting at that moment. That's what I'm doing to kind of help ground myself for that morning.
Yeah. And one of the things I love about Kundalini Yoga, just to offer a different perspective, is that Kundalini is all about believing that there is more than enough abundance and joy in everything for everyone, that is your divine birthright. That if you have a podcast and somebody else has a podcast, you are not in direct competition with each other. You are just speaking your truth and you're speaking your Dharma out into the world, and the right person will resonate with it and the right person will hear it. And that will create a positive effect in their life. And maybe somebody else's podcast resonates with someone else. And that is okay, right? We're all here to lift each other up. We're all here to support one another. And that just because I wrote a book on Kundalini Yoga doesn't mean that somebody else didn't write a book on Kundalini Yoga that might resonate with someone else. And that is beautiful. There is nothing about that. And it's about believing that abundance, to your point, right? I say that you need to fill ourselves up first, right? Ground ourselves. You're saying I can't pour out from an empty cup. So they're both two halves of the same coin. I'm talking about filling yourself up, and you're saying I fill myself up so I can pour out. So if you even think about your verbiage, that tells me and everyone listening that you are a loving, beautiful, giving soul, right? Who feels called, right? Like you, without even realizing it, you're saying, I feel called to help others. I feel called to serve others. I feel called to be there for other people. And in order for me to do this calling, I need to fill myself up first. Right. So you, without even realizing it, know that part of what lights you up, part of what makes you happy, part of what is your path in this incarnation in life is to be of service for others. Otherwise, you wouldn't be taking your free time to do something like this podcast, right?
Yeah.
And in order for you to be divinely supported in that regard, you need all the things that allow you to show up presently in that. And that is energy. That's energy in the family support system that you have, and your friend support system, and the positive environment in which you work, and the financial abundance that comes your way. Like if you're worried about your foundational needs, anyone, not just you, right? If any of us are worried about our foundational needs, like shelter, food, all that root chakra stability, we can't get into that. We can't tap into those other energies. We can't raise our Kundalini up our spine because we're worried about how we're going to fill our foundational needs of like safety, security, a roof over our head. Yeah. So like Kundalini is really like at its core about the fact that all of us have this divine right to have anything and everything we've ever wanted. And that's so that we can fill up and then pour our cups into other people. We can be of service to others. We can have abundance and joy, abundance and laughter, right? Abundance and money, abundance in space, abundance in friendships, abundance in compassion, right? Abundance in every aspect, material or not, so that when we have that, we are able to give freely to others.
Mm-hmm. That is, I love it. It kind of jumped into my next part, because when you were talking about like a judgment, just being judgment free, and then your energy, I love in the book, you kind of say that it's a judgment free zone as far as like Kundalini yoga. And you said through Kundalini yoga, we move energy, and sometimes the energy is intense. Being perfect is boring, and pretending you are perfect is downright dangerous. I love that. Oh my God. It was just like, oh my God, I talked about how I have so many stars by the book, and I've written with my pen and highlight. I was like, oh my God, I love that. I needed to read that at that moment, because I felt like I have to be, sometimes I get in my own way, and just, being a parent, being a wife, and working and having a business, and just feeling like you just have to be everything to everybody. And just like, I got to make this right. This has to be right. And just knowing like being perfect, that's boring, and pretending is downright dangerous. I needed that. So I thank you for that. There were so many nuggets in the book. I'd be talking all day if I was to go over all of them.
I mean, and first and foremost, thank you. I mean, you and I are in a safe container right now, as is everybody who is listening to this. And you can't see me listening to the podcast, but I have tears in my eyes. Like literally, this is the whole reason why I wrote this book, is because, I mean, I've gotten the pleasure to know you a little bit more, right? Through even our first connection, the first time we did a podcast interview. And I feel grateful and lucky, right, to be in your sphere. And just that sharing alone, like, whew, it hit me in the heart, right? You know, like, that is, it's so, we have such these parameters around ourselves that we're supposed to be perfect all the time. And, it's like my acupuncturist in New York, who, God, I just love that man. He is like a brother from another mother. Like he's just this beautiful, amazing light being who is like a healer placed on this earth. And people would ask me, well, what does it look like when you get angry? And by this time, I'm probably like 34 in New York City, right? And I looked at him and thought, like, I have no idea. And he said, well, of course not, Erin. Nice little Southern girls aren't allowed to get mad and angry. And I was like, I said, crap. For anybody who doesn't know, I grew up in Virginia, which is not as South as, where Tamara is at the moment, but like it's Southern enough that like no one on my mom's side of the family raised their voice ever, and still has not to this day, nor have I seen anyone on my dad's side of the family raise their voice, and still has not to this day. And I was taken aback, like, whoa, I have no idea what it's like to tap into that side of energy, right? And I have been told that is shameful and painful and disrespectful and not becoming of a lady, right? And my entire life, subliminal and otherwise. So there's a whole range of emotion that I have not been given permission to feel, which means it lives somewhere in my body. It shows up in disease. It shows up in heartache, right? It shows up in actual physical pains. There are a full range of emotions that we need to move and experience every single day. And through pain, shame, societal programming, experiences, trauma, all sorts of things, a lot of that emotion gets stuck in our body, which is the whole reason why I believe like moving the energy, moving that Kundalini, moving all of that is so important, because it allows our body to be free. And it allows us not to be perfect, and it allows us to be able to find a safe space to sit in those emotions and sit with our imperfections and realize that all of it is beautiful.
I'm going to be honest. I wasn't even sure if I was going to share this part, because for me, being emotional, I guess for me growing up with my family, no one ever really cries ever. And I don't cry often, but I guess lately I've kind of been in my emotions. And for me, letting emotions out. Just like, oh my God, I'm just going to be honest. It's all has been looked at to me as a sign of weakness. And like, I can't be weak. I can't cry. Don't cry. My mom has told me forever, like, just let it out. And I just was like, mm-mm. And for some reason, anytime we talk or we're interacting, I just feel this part of emotion that I don't like to tap into. And I'm going to be so honest and transparent. As I was reading one part, and I'm going to tell you what I did because I didn't want to go too far into it. I was reading one part of it and I could feel myself getting emotional and about to start crying. I put it up. I put it down. I was like, mm-mm. And I was like, why do I even sat in it for a moment. I was like, why do I feel this way sometimes when I connect to her and just learn from her and gain insight from it? It's like, what is that? And I guess I am tapping into those emotions that I allowed to lay dormant for so long.
Yeah. And that's okay though. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It is a lifetime journey, and there is nothing wrong or shameful about that in any way, shape, or form. That is okay. Yeah. And if you're not ready to tap into it in a moment, that's okay too. But it's there now, right? You know that there's some stuff down there that's asking to be seen. There's feelings that are asking to be experienced, and you know that. And when you're ready, and when you're in a safe space, in a safe container, you can do that. And it's not uncommon, truly, for Kundalini type experiences to be like that. This is why some people get quote unquote scared about it, is because you are moving energy. And when you start to move energy, there's a lot of us that shove a lot of things down.
Yeah.
And it will come from here until the end of this round and carry down into the next, because each time we peel back a little bit of that onion, and then there's something else lying dormant within. And then that comes up and we face it, and we get the courage to move through it and feel it and embrace a different part of our soul that maybe we've lost along the way. We call part of ourselves home by doing that and feeling that emotion. You're calling that part of yourself home, and you'll get the courage to step a little bit more fully, and you'll get the courage to see, the little Tamara that was afraid of that. And you'll get the courage to hold her with loving arms, and you'll get the courage to give her a kiss and a hug and cuddle her and tell her and caress her that everything's okay, right? That she's safe, and she'll come back and she'll reintegrate and she'll be a part of who you are. And then you'll step fully and you'll feel a little bit more power and a little bit more grounded. And then you'll move some more energy and you'll peel a little bit more back. And then it'll happen all over again. And your heart will open, and it will break, and it will expand, and it will open some more, and it will crack open and break and expand and happen again. And it will continue to happen over and over and over and over again. And it will be that journey from here on forward. It's tough. Like, one of the things that people do not talk about enough, when you start on a spiritual journey, it gets way quote unquote worse before it gets better. And the better is not better.
Yeah.
Better is a level of deep understanding, love, respect for yourself, and acceptance for yourself that makes the experience shift. It is not better as in all of a sudden you become a spiritual enlightened being and then you have no more worries. It's like, no, you see the world for what it is, and you accept it for what it is, and you learn how to move through it differently. And when we finally start to open the door to those things, it hurts. It hurts bad. You feel it in your heart. You feel it in your shoulders, in your body, in your soul. The tension headache you've got in the back of your neck, and in your temples, you feel it in every fiber of your being. And this is so maybe if we reframe it, those morning paying yourself, mind, body, spirit, maybe if we reframe it to, we don't want to open the floodgates. We talked about protection a lot. And I talk about that because again, highly sensitive being over here, I need that to create a container. And when I'm done, I say, this container is now closed. I am now going to go about my day. Thank you for your divine guidance. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I love you. I love you. I love you. I am grateful for you. I am so lucky to have the team that is around me, right? I know you're walking through this day with me, but right now the container is closed. I am now about to move through the earth as a human, as a soul having a human experience. And I need your love, your guidance, and protection to walk with me through this path. We don't just open ourselves up to this Kundalini energy. We don't open ourselves up to moving all of this energy and let ourselves step into the world wide open with no energetic boundaries, because those who haven't done the work will jump right in. And those open wounds that you felt by reading that, right? They will be exposed and raw, and it will hurt, and it will not be a safe space to feel that emotion. So we close the door. We put those boundaries back around them. So you open the book, right? You were in a page and you were like, I can't do this right now. Like today is not the day, right? And for whatever reason, today was not the day. And that's okay. Today is not the day. No big deal. I know it's there. I see you. I acknowledge you. I love you. I know that you are there. And I promise you, I will not forsake you. I will not leave you alone. And I will come back to you. But I need to come back to you in a time when it's safe for me, when I can put boundaries, where I can give dedicated, intentional time to come to you with a loving, open heart. And today is not the day. But I'm not going away. Like, I will not forsake you. I will be back, but just not today. And that's okay. And so there will be a time, probably in the near future, where you're like, okay, I'm going to give myself the gift of dealing with this for 10 minutes. And you're going to say, you're going to pray to whomever and whatever you believe in. And you're going to say, I'm going to do this for 10 minutes. I'm going to feel my emotions fully. And I'm going to set a space. I'm going to light a candle. I'm going to burn some sage. I'm going to pray. I'm going to bring my rosary. Here's my Bible, like whatever you got, your brand, like the whole thing, like it doesn't matter, whomever and whatever you believe in, right? Bring your sacred spaces, bring your things, and set the intention. You're going to be like, you got 10 minutes today, and I will be fully open and present for 10 minutes, but and then we're closing the door and we'll see what we can do after that. And then maybe we do it again tomorrow, but for today, 10 minutes and 10 minutes only. And you put your boundary up. And then that inner child, that part of you that's like, oh, thank you for finally hearing me, is going to be like, all right, I can work for 10 minutes. Let's go.
I never thought about it that way, because I was like, I know I need to, be more open to their part of myself. Because I even see it like within my daughters, like they're hardly ever emotional or crying or anything. And it's just like, that's something that I know that I need to deal with. And part of my reason for closing it was like, I don't want to stay in that place all day. But so that's enlightening to hear, like, you can, be in this space, but it needs to be a limit on it. It's okay. It's all right.
And even the vulnerability to tell your daughters, this is really hard for me.
Yeah.
This is something that makes me uncomfortable in every fiber of my being. And I know that that's something that my heart really wants to change. Yeah. And I'm working on it. And it's going to be a journey for me. And I can see that it's also difficult for you. Mm-hmm. So if you want to talk about it, I'm here, but know that I don't have the answers. And I'm learning also. Think about the gift of giving them the freedom and the safe space to say, hey, this is tough for me. I, your mom, am a human being. I am not perfect, and I will falter. And this is something that was ingrained in me from a very young age that I did not ask for, right? This was imprinted on me by my surroundings. And I'm working on healing that for myself and for you, right? Mm-hmm. And we can do this together. And I'm here for you, whether or not you want to work on that or not, but know that this is tough. And I'm going to put some intention behind it. And I love you regardless. But everything that you feel and think is beautiful. And I know that. And it's hard for me to share that sometimes, right? It's hard for me to be in that space. That is something that does not come easy to me. But you know what? I'm going to try. And it will be a lifelong journey, and I will not get it right, because there is no right? Like, I will never probably show up the way that in my head I feel like I should. Mm-hmm. But that's something else I'm working on too. And God, what a gift to just infuse some more humanity into all of our experience. And what a consciousness. I'm sure that because you and I are on this path, like, neither of us had that type of conscious dialogue with any of our caregivers growing up, right? Mm-hmm. Regardless of whom they would be. And think about the difference that might have made to say, it's okay to not feel comfortable with this. I'm here for you regardless. I love you regardless. You are whole and perfect exactly as you are.
Yes, I love that. And I need to actually do that. I never thought about it that way. So thank you for sharing that with me. I do need to do it.
Give love to yourself first. You are whole and perfect just as you are. You are.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And as I was kind of reading the book, I know for me personally, I use Google to help me with certain things and certain terminology that I can't pronounce. I like to tell my kids Google is my best friend. So I truly appreciated the definitions that you have, especially in the beginning of the book. And I one of them that you kind of went over, my favorite that I read was,
all right. In my Matthew McConaughey voice. If you want to hear what was my favorite from the book, you gotta tune into part 2. Part 2 will be released next week, same time, of my interview with Erin Elizabeth Downey. Please go and show your support and purchase the book from Amazon. The link will be listed in the show notes for you to purchase the book. If you do yoga, if you know someone that does yoga, or possibly someone that is interested in taking their yoga to the next level, this is the perfect book for you. Everything is explained perfectly. Even myself that feels like I know absolutely nothing about yoga was able to take in and receive so much from this book. I won't keep talking, but I want you to join us on next week. If you like the podcast, if you enjoyed it, if it helped you in any way, all you have to do is share it, like, comment, and purchase the book. Send a link to someone and tell them to give it to you as a gift, whatever it may be. Whatever it may be. I want you to show your support to our fellow girl bosses. Like, comment, subscribe, share the podcast, purchase the book. And I will talk with you ladies on next week for our part 2 of our interview with Erin Elizabeth Downey.